students' thinking to create a need for them to apply mathematical knowledge in other school subjects or in solving everyday out-of-school problems. And the main goal of mathematics education is to develop the problem-solving competence. Because the successful problem solvers regulate their cognitive, motivational, and affective process. The development of self-regulated learning skills has become one of the basic tasks and goals of education. Self-regulated learning is an academically effective from the learning taught with the learners, set goals and makes plans before starting to learn, monitors and regulate his or her cognitions, motivations and behavior during the learning process, and reflect on his or her learning process. The theory of self-regulated learning is linked to the concept of lifelong learning, and the basis of self-regulated learning are strongly regulate with the steps of solving a problem. And why gamification? What gamification is? Gamification is a rather new method in education, and it was previously used in mainly in marketing. And the Turning et al. Defined gamification as the use of game design elements in non-game context. There are also more detailed definitions, for example, that given by CAP, according to which gamification is using game-based mechanics and game thinking to engage people, motivate action, and promote learning and solve problems. And another approach for designing gamification is linking with computer games. In this context, gamification is the use of elements from computer games outside gaming activities. Gamification have advantages, and according to Fruman, the advantage of gamification can be summarized along three performance enhancing factors. Increase level of individual and group motivation, strengthening the community cohesion, and encourage academic achievement. Students participating in game-field courses said that their motivation increased, and the courses attendance was higher, and they work harder on the task. This is their advantage. And our research was carried out during the second semester of this university year. The research is still in progress. We finished the intervention, but the post-test is still in progress. And the research question was, game field problem solving contribute to the development of self-regulation and problem solving competence? And in this research, we had 64 participants, primary and preschool pedagogy students, 31 in experimental and 33 in the control group. And the instruments we used was the pretest, the post-test, and the intervention. In the pretest, we used questions related with their self-regulation when solving the given problems. For example, did you encourage yourself during the problem solution not to giving up? And we used self-regulated problem-solving skills. For example, when I know I made a mistake in solving a problem, I try to find out why. And The intervention was two-group experimental design. In the experimental group, gamification on SEPO platform is used for problem-solving activities. Gamification is used on game elements in a non-game situation, in this case, during a problem-solving activity. And in this picture, we can see the map we used in the SEPO platform. We had a map, and then we invited a story and the rules and the witness for instructors. In our research, the story was an invitation in a trip in the world to know the countries of Europe and their sites better. We visited 5 new places every week. And to able to go in a country and see a location, they needed a badge. And these badges could be obtained by solving the task correctly. And we wonder how many places they will be able to visit by end of the year. The rules are very simple. There are 3 rules. The order doesn't matter. You can start with any task. You get the badges if you answer the questions correctly, and you have 18 minutes to complete the tasks. And when the story and the rules are ready, we start to create the exercise. We can choose from 5 exercise type. Then we can add additional settings. From this research, we used a picture, icons, and badges. In a right picture, we can see an example for the badges. Every exercise had its own badge, and the badge name was a location in the country. In this image, we can see the map after the exercise, and the icons are added in different locations for the countries. All the exercises are named with the corresponding location. Here we can see, but is in Hungary. The mathematical content of the intervention was the both groups solved the same problems. The word text problems, which can be solved by specific methods taught in primary school. And we added questions attend to problems. For example, would you solve the problem with a different method? Or if this yes, which method is more adequate to this problem? And how did you feel during the problem solving? And have you checked if the solution is correct? Or did you find this problem difficult? Behind this math exercise and the self-regulated learning, we ask interesting questions about the characteristic of the locations for fun. And for the moment, we can formulate only the expected results, which is that game field problem solving contribute to the development of self-regulation and problem-solving competence. The post-test is taking place in this moment. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. This was really interesting, and it looks like major fun. I hope you had a lot of fun during your research. I bet you did. What are you going to do in the post-test?
What I do in the pretest, but the other exercise, but is the same level.
Mm-hmm. So if anybody has questions, you're like before, you're very welcome to post them now, or just write them into the chat, and I'm going to address them then afterwards. Is anybody interested in those? I think it was 64 participants. If not, then maybe we have the next talk. But it is really interesting. It looks like it's a really cute picture too that you showed. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
If I may ask a question.
Yes, of course.
Can I? Yeah, Adina, you're working with teachers, not students, right?
For this work, I work with two teachers to help me in this research, but the research is on the students.
On the students, okay.
The,
They are
yes,
elementary
yes.
students.
Primary
Elementary
and preschool pedagogy students from our university.
So they are student teachers, not students in the elementary.
No, they are become teachers in the future.
Yeah. So this is what I meant. So they are student teachers, and you are experimenting on games and problem solving, just trying to highlight the main points. So did you have any data till now, like their reflections, their attitude towards gamification and problem solving?
Yes. We also had a questionnaire in which we were curious about their knowledge of gamification, but these results are in the process.
I see. So like what is something that caught your attention? Not necessarily something from the questionnaire, something it was catchy for you to see or observe or hear from them, from this experience. Do you have anything strange that happened during the process? You were thinking of something, it happened differently.
I'm thinking, but
okay, no problem. So who invented this map thing? Is it you?
I find the map in Google, and we use in Seppo can use a map, and we write the story for this map.
But the intervention is your work.
Yes, is our work. Yes.
Okay, so it's part of the design also. Okay, thank you, Adina. We're looking forward to see results and talk more about that.
Okay, thank you.
So what do you think, Eva? Do you take more questions, or we can start our second speaker?
I think we should maybe wait a few more minutes because the next talk is scheduled at 10:10.
Okay.
However, is the presenter already here? We should now have importance of online education. So it's the presenter.
Mansoor.
Something. I think that your research so interested. So would you like to explain us about how your research, but that your tools to improve their ability of problem solving, right? So when you how about your result? Maybe you can explain us, and then about when using the tools and what the goals and what what the goals, what the result about the tools. Would you like to explain to us?
I don't really understand the question.
You make a tools to improve their ability, right? About problem solving skill, right?
Yes, they are make an exercise in mathematics.
Yeah, and then I want to know how the result about the tools.
When they resolve the exercise, they have questions about how they work and how did you feel during the problems and they solve problem with different methods.
Yeah, I mean, before they using the tools, before they using how their ability to problem solving, and then after that, after they using the tools, how the result. I think this is so interested before and after using the tool.
Can I?
Okay.
My colleague
We are working
Sure,
together
Juliana.
with Edna, so can I also say some
Yes,
words?
please. Yes, please.
Thank you.
So we already done the pretest, but the post-test is happening in this moment. So we don't have the post-test results yet. We have only the pretest results, and the pretest shows that they are. So in the pretest, we gave them non-routine problems, and seems that they had difficulties with solving these problems. They are students with preschool and primary school specialization, and they are their mathematical competencies are very varied. So some of them coming from mathematics classes from high school, some of them from literature class. So they have very different competencies in mathematics. And also these mathematics course, this mathematics
Oh no.
course wants to give them the base for so the problem solved very good in the pretest. We had a test. We made the test based on the literature about this, to make them aware about controlling their problem solving. So that's the. But we don't have yet the results. But when we will have, we will write an article. We will publish it. So or maybe present to another conference. So, but we can't say more for the moment how effective this intervention was. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliana. And I'm sorry, probably it was my internet, but it was a bit broken up. Can you maybe just repeat quickly, because I only was able to understand like every second word what you just said?
So you couldn't understand?
No, I think my internet was not really good. So could you just quickly sum up what you just said, because I was only able to hear every second word.
To say quickly again what I
yes.
Yes. So we had the pretest, which shows that they have very different ability in problem solving, and also they are not aware of controlling every process during program solving. And for the moment, the post-test is going on, and we can't say now if the intervention was efficient or not, because we don't have the post-test results. And we focused on self-regulated learning in this intervention. So that's the reason beside the problems, they always got some questions referring to their how they control the problem solving, how they felt during problem solving. So this regulation of cognitive and emotional regulation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thanks to, I'm sorry, it might have been just my internet connection. That happens sometimes. So Hosan, should we now do the first presenter who joined us meanwhile?
Thank you, Adina and Juliana, for interesting talk. And yes, since we have Adela, then we just switch 1 and 2. We are fine. So please, Adela, you can start.
Nice to meet you all. I had an emergency to come with my mother in a village, so I'm having like a more special setting now for my presentation. If I can start to share screen, I think it's.
You should be able, just the green button in the bottom.
Yes. Host disabled participant screen sharing, maybe if you allow, and then.
Oh, sorry, I will quickly make you a co-host then.
Yeah, because I opened the presentation.
Susie, can you quickly make her co-host or allow her the presentation, please?
You should be able to share, aren't you?
Yes, now I'm trying again.
Thank you.
It's still, it writes to me host to disabled participant screen. It's the same, but so I click the green button and it pops up me. Now it's.
I think we might have to make a co-host for now and then.
I can't make her co-host.
Oh, okay, who is host?
I am host, but in the breakout session, I can't make her co-host.
I see, so that's the problem. Okay, another approach. Adila, can you please send me the presentation? Or Christoph the presentation, so he can show and you just say next and then we see the next slide.
To check because I have a lot of photos in a folder and I know I have it online too if I'm able to find it best. But in the meantime, I think while I'm searching the folder, I try to.
Excuse me, Eva.
Yes.
I think Adela should try again. I've tried it. Looks like it's giving me a permission. I think she should try again.
Let's try again now.
Thank you, Musa.
Welcome.
Yes, I think now it will work.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks both of you. Great solution.
Oh, it's the same. Yeah. So I push the screen, the share screen, and it tries the same. One moment, let's try. Or if not, I send after the images, or but just one moment to have one moment of a bit of patience. Let's see if I find yes, I have the link, so I will send it in the chat.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and now where
At the bottom, you find the button for the chat.
yeah, it's loading now, I think, because of the internet or something. I cannot.
Maybe meanwhile, you can already tell us what your
Yes,
research is
yes,
about.
this is
And
what I'm planning. I don't see you now anymore, but I will start talking. I hope you
we
hear
can
me.
still
Yes?
hear you. We can still
Yes,
hear
great.
you.
So nice to meet you all. I will present today the smaller topic is the dome cinema for scene storytelling. I am a PhD student here in Cluj-Napoca at Theatre and Film Faculty. I studied before my BA in cinematography and media, and I have my master degree in Budapest in media design. So I started experimenting and after I started, so from cinematography, I started with media design. I realized more media installation. So I have here the photos. This is why you will understand more after I will send the presentation with all the images. You will see here media installations. I also made augmented reality projects, and then I started researching immersive media. In 2016, I started working at a documentary film festival where I made a new media department.
Mm-hmm.
And the name of the department was The Future is Now. And I brought virtual reality projects and also the dome cinema. The dome is a structure that comes from the planetarium. It was mostly developed in Germany, and it was invented in 1924 by Walter Bauersfeld. And then the planetarium, now in the digital age, merged with the new technologies, and now we are able to have movies. And at this festival, we had this structure which had 19 meters in diameter, so it was a big structure. And I made a program where people, school children could come. And in the selection, I was also the curator of the program. There were STEAM storytelling movies. So I have here in the presentation how this structure looks like. This was built in the center of the city, and there was a time schedule where every class could come and could watch the movies. I have here the posters of what kind of movies were there presented. There were biology topics. And what is special about this dome cinema is that the screen, which is overlapping us, and the story of the movies is that you can have a zoom that you are outside the characters. And then, for example, there was a movie about the human body, and then you can enter the human body and explore how it works. And the other STEAM topics that they were presented were also about the cosmos, and here were also cartoon-like made movies. So they weren't only scientific explanation, but there were also puppet movies. So there were characters, and they were filmed at green screen, and then they were live acted. And the idea is that the science was merged with something to learn from the characters, because in these stories, for example, in one there was an old man and there was a king, and the king asked the old man to count all the stars, which is also impossible to do it. And then because the old man was good-hearted, he managed to count some constellations, and this is how he saved his life. So the idea is that he had some helpers. So in these movies also the science part, for example, the real constellation, that this is how we read the stars, were embedded in these stories, and with these characters that you could also have another layer of meaning to learn for the kids. My Skype is still white, so I don't see you. I don't know. Do you hear me?
We hear you perfectly, and we can follow your story with the old man that solves mathematical riddles.
Yes. So
Try to imagine everything that you're saying in that huge dome.
I have here the posters of the film. For example, the human body. The name of the movie is Cell. That so we can enter microscopically in the human cell. And here too we have a lot of characters, that kids that explore the body. So the movies are really embedded into these stories, that while we explore a STEAM topic, we are still having this character part, that it works psychologically like in the movies, that we develop also our emotional side with these characters, that we are in their adventure and we want them to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
The other movie was The Earth and Me. I also have here the poster. There was also one, Natural Selection. This was traveling with Darwin in his ship, and how they also discovered new species while they explored new islands.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have a sea journey where they arrive at a new island, and what kind of birds they find there, and how can they study them. I also have here Chinese mythology film, director Tang Xi. The next one is We Are Stars. Here is displayed a planet like a playground, and here through this playground you can explore the planets. The poster is also very nicely, the design is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is We Are Aliens. This is about the possibility or the question of if we find another life, like we find in the Darwin movie on other islands, but here the space time, it's the cosmic dimension, and this question. And of course here are these characters with 3 eyes. How can we imagine other types of life? And here again, the creativity of the kids involved in how these characters are made, and questions in the movie and how they imagine if they encounter. And we also had a historical film about World to War, the next movie that it was selected. So the palette ranged from mythology, history, biology, geography, and the cosmos. This was the topic, and these were the films that were presented. And I will send the presentation. It's in a folder, and you can see there all the photos, and you can see the posters, the movies. You can see the kids, how they were organized to come from school, and how they enter this dome, and what is their position to looking up vertically to the screen, and how they are immersed. And at the end, I put how this STEAM storytelling and media learning is developing. I found one example in the UK, and also how it's converging also with virtual reality. And at the end, I put also some images because here it was a collaboration to have a dome in a salt mine. So it's a salt mine. You buy your ticket to visit this mine, and underneath the earth you find this dome, and you can enter to watch this movie. So the other program beside the festival one was this salt mine.
So was the mine also like shaped like a dome?
Yeah, yes. There also we developed a program like that, so you would see it in the image beside the festival.
This sounds really interesting, and I hope that we have the presentation soon, because I bet that many people want to see pictures of this.
I will also send it on Facebook to the organizers, and because I have to restart the Zoom to enter again, it's still white for me. It's not working.
Yeah,
but,
and also you find a link.
You will have it. It's here on my. In a few minutes, I will send it and.
Yeah, it's easier even in the GeoGebra book. You find a link with a Google folder where to put the presentations to. So if you just put it into the link, and I will also give you the link here, then everybody can immediately see it.
Yes, it's very easy to understand from the images.
How can anyone contribute to your project? So probably it's possible to create videos that you can then also show. Is that something that you can do?
Yes, this is a future project after I finish my PhD, to start also developing scientific teams, but in this style. Also, for example, the movie, which you will find in the poster, you will see the puppets and how they made the movie with the puppets, and it's really like an animation in the movie. It's so the possibilities are technically varied of how can we create content, but through my email and Facebook, if someone is interested, we can find some solutions.
I'm sure that many are interested, because it sounds like a great topic. However, I believe that we should commence then maybe with the next presentation. I gave you the link for GeoGebra to upload your presentation in the chat.
Yeah, but my chat it's white now. It's not working. But
yeah,
I will find it. I remember. Yes.
Take your time.
Thank
and
you so much
about your emergency. I hope everything is fine.
Yes. Thank you so much for your patience.
And thanks for the interesting presentation. Now I would say it's probably Musa's time, and I'm looking forward to a really interesting topic, because it's a bit farther away from the scope that we are used to. So I'm really curious. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think everyone can hear me well. Hello, everyone.
We can hear you. We can hear you well.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as you can see, the title of the project is Implementation of STEM Education in Business Communication Course through Mobile Application. The project has been done by Frederick Mtenz and I myself. So we have organized our presentation in this way. We start with the background, statement of the problem, literature review, methodology, presentation of findings, discussion, and conclusion. So, like you, I think everyone can agree with us that nowadays business communication is for everyone. Whether you are an employer, you are an employee, you need it. However, the advancement of technology has made its nature to be very complex because it's using multiple channels like written, oral, face-to-face, sometimes in a combination of them. It has also multiple modes. People can use colors, can have words, sounds, pictures, and so on. Again, you don't know who is your next audience. You don't have a permanent audience. All the time you are finding a new audience. Therefore, in order for somebody to be effective communicator, what does this person need? This person needs these skills as creativity, critical thinking, analytical, and teamwork. If you look at what is needed as skills for the learner to be effective communicator, you find that the teaching and the learning practice ideally follows into STEAM model, where you can raise inquiry through science, creation through technology, design through engineering aspect, attraction to make something beauty through arts, and the analysis, that is problem solving, through mathematics. However, the current practice is based on subject model, where students are taught strategies to memorize content and they accumulate content. Implications is that these students graduate without being competent enough to compete in the global world market. So where we are today and tomorrow, what is this telling us now? The situation that we are facing is that because teachers don't have skills and the resources to implement STEM education, which can take us from where we are. For our tomorrow is dependent on the research to inform practices of STEM education in order to improve teaching and learning of business education. Therefore, as a result, this prompted us to conduct this project in order to investigate how we can implement STEM education in a business education course. So the general objective was to investigate how to implement STEM education in a business communication course through mobile application at the College of Business Education. Specifically, we intended to assess the current practices in teaching business communication course. And also we wanted to examine the impact of the implementation of STEM education on students' skills development and the learning motivation. And I review our literature to get a concept of STEM education. We realized that we had the evolution. There are literature that are talking about the evolution, that its evolution is mainly to cope with the 21st century's challenges. Also, there are benefits. Although there are benefits, challenges are also there. However, there are also mitigations. Also, there are a number of pedagogical frameworks that have been proposed. So comprehending all whatever we have covered from our literature review, we came up with this conceptual framework. And our conceptual framework, has been adapted from the pedagogical framework on using clouds that has been proposed by Barak. So generally in our conceptual framework, we have three things that surrounds the learner. That is learning activities, teacher facilitation, and the mobile application. That is our technology. So if you look at these arrows, they show that these aspects are interconnected, they interact. If you have the activities, but the teacher is not facilitating, you cannot achieve. If you have the teacher facilitation, you don't have the proper mobile application, you cannot also achieve. Therefore, to implement this, we adopted this methodology. We went for qualitative approach and participatory action research as our design. The participatory action research model is a spiral model that is proposed by Chemis and McTaggart. It has 2 cycles. On our case, we used only 2 cycles. So participant, actually, we had Diploma 2 students at the College of Business Education. So automatically the sampling strategy was purposeful because we took only those who were taking the course. The data collection, we used reflections and observation. The analysis, we analyzed our data thematically. During the implementation, based on the model that we adopted, we started with reconnaissance, that is situational analysis, looking at what is happening now and identifying the needs. Then after that, we went on planning on what mobile applications could improve the learning. Actually, we used Google Classroom, Google Slides, we had Google Docs, and also Camis. Then from there, we guided learners on how to install and how to use. We gave them some tasks and we assessed the tasks. Then we reflected and replanned for the next cycle to improve what was missing. For instance, in the first cycle, we asked learners to submit their work through emails, sharing the Google Slides. But later on, we found that our emails could have a lot of emails unnecessarily. Then we realized that we could also use Google Classroom. We could tell them just to submit through Google Classroom. So that was some of the modification. And again, we thought like in order to motivate them, we should allow them to embed whatever they wish in their slides as kind of their identity. So some of them could take pictures of their own. Some of them they could accompany with the songs and whatever they wish to introduce their presentation. And again, the kind of assessment that we gave was to ask them to plan whatever project they want to implement and come to us, present it, and interlink it with communication skills that are needed in accomplishing those projects. So these are the findings. Remember, the first objective was to look or to assess the current practices. We found that the current practices is teacher-centered, that is teacher lecturing, and even there is little use of technology among students. Sometimes the teacher could only use PowerPoint. That was only thing that students could get. However, after the implementation, we found that students could develop digital literacy. Students were now able to use various of applications like Google Slides. They could prepare their slides. They could even design in whatever way they wished. Critical thinking, students were able to analyze even their project and the skills that they were needed and how they could acquire those skills. They could come and present. Collaboration, students could share their slides. They could even sometimes go to bankers in order to ask if they can get loan, whatever. So they were looking on different sources of knowledge on how they can improve and implement their project. When it came to the development of students' motivation, we found that it increased the engagement of students. The attendance went up, and also the participation, the contribution of students in the class went high again. So under the discussion, we are saying the current practice do not support learners to compete in the global competitive market. That means the changes are imperative. And also we are saying STEM education sets the very strong foundation for these learners to be competitive in the global market because it gives them the necessary skills, especially the 21st century skills like collaboration, digital literacy, creativity, and the critical thinking. So the lessons that we have learned from this implementation is that, the implementation of STEM education depends on teachers' creativity and innovation rather than a huge investment of resources. You can imagine in our case, we didn't have a big lab. Actually, even the computer that were available, most of them were not working. So we decided to use mobile applications that it belongs to the students. And finally, we succeeded. And it is also procedural. Don't expect it to be overnight. So patience is needed for teachers. It requires time, investment, and open-mindedness. Time is in case of planning and even supporting learners. Learners, because this is something new, they would always come to you. You can imagine for us in the second cycle, we decided even to give our mobile phone to learners to call us at any time. At midnight, a student is calling to, oh, I wanted to submit the whatever I failed. So you have to be there. The presence is very important. Open-mindedness is that sometimes what you plan, it doesn't work. Initially, personally, we planned to use the Wi-Fi that is offered by the university, only to find that it doesn't work. So we had to use our bandwidth to share with the students for it to work. So if you are not open-minded, you get frustrated. And again, it happened that we calculated that almost all students had had a smartphone, only to find that when we were installing some of the application, we are not compatible. So we had few devices than we planned. So we had to adjust our strategy according to what we had. So what next again is that educators, policymakers, researchers should collaborate to embrace STEM education. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So this connects nicely to the keynote from today, actually, because I believe the key between different strategies and different directions is collaboration, and not just always looking on what you're doing, because then probably you're going to be really, really good in what you think, but you will never learn about other views.
Sure.
I have a question. If nobody else has a question, I have a question. You previously said that you had observations and you did reflections. How did you do that? How did you observe?
Yeah, sure. So what we did is that by the time perhaps we gave assignment to students, we were going throughout the class, seeing what students were doing. And again, even when we asked them to come to the class for presentation of their projects, we could just observe what they were doing, how they created the PowerPoints, how are they presenting, were they comfortable, were they showing some kind of interest. That's all we observed. When it comes to reflection, that we kept a reflective journal all the time. Whatever critical moment we thought there were some insights that were very useful, we noted them down and kept with them until we completed our project.
That sounds really, really useful. Is anybody else interested in something? Because I find this really intriguing. If not, then maybe we can answer any questions later on, perhaps. Is that possible, Musa? If somebody else has a question, then they come back to you.
Well, I would also ask you to help me monitor the chat. I don't know if some people may have asked from the chat. I cannot monitor at the same time responding to questions.
No, but nobody asked anything, so I'm sure that questions will arise, however, and I will just come back to you if they are there.
Thank you.
Then we can start with our next talk, which is about design and development of museum object-oriented narratology to enrich science capital. So we are really interested now in what the view of India is. You have the floor. Oh, can you hear us?
Yes.
Ah, okay, right, we can hear you.
Can you hear? Yeah. Thank you, Professor Eva, for giving us this opportunity to share our experience of disabled screen sharing. I would need screen sharing facility. Professor Eva, can I have screen sharing facility?
Interesting, because we already had that problem, but everybody should be able to screen share.
Host attendee screen sharing.
Disabled.
Disabled.
It is disabled?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. We will try to work on this problem, because the presenter before you was able to do it, and the presenter before that presenter was not able to do it. So it seems it is a technical problem.
Yeah, I understand.
Let us just...
Excuse me, Eva?
Yes.
Can Dr. Jairama share with me his PowerPoint perhaps, so that I can just display for him? I'm sharing my mail in the chat box.
That would be a really quick and good solution, I think.
If it's possible, if it's...
Thank you for the offering.
Okay, fine.
Is the email ID in the chat box?
Sure, it's there. bromusa40@gmail.com. It's there.
Oh, Bromusa, yeah, I'll try to.
This is really something that we did not encounter yet. And it's interesting that some can share their screen and some can't. Maybe it has something to do with how they logged in by either the Edina, you were also able to share your screen, right? Did you log in using the Zoom app, or did you log in using just Chrome? Maybe it has to do something with the login.
I don't know. I can share the screen, and I use an app, so it's opening another window for me for Chrome, not in Chrome.
Juliana, how did you join? Did you join using the app, the Zoom app?
Yes.
Probably this might be the reason. Because since Adela previously said that she had an emergency and was not on her usual computer, probably she did not have the app installed.
Yeah.
In any case, thank you, Musa, for offering this, and I hope you get something. I fear we lost Mr. Yahya Rahman. He's black now.
Yeah, sure. It's not there.
He just said that he sent you the message, the email.
Okay, fine. Let me check.
Have you received the PPT?
You're back. That's great.
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah, sure. Sure. Sure.
I've got it. Traveling at the speed of light.
I'm sharing soon.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much.
So nice of you.
Sharing it.
Jose, since you're next, I hope it's okay if we just start a few minutes later with your presentation.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doing good.
It works. Hooray. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks
great,
both
great.
of you.
Yes. Yeah. So nice of you, Professor Eva, for helping us to reach out to you. Can I begin now?
Yes,
can you hear
please.
me?
We can hear you really nicely.
Yeah.
And
yes.
thank you very much for your patience, everyone.
No, thank you so much. Yes. The topic for my presentation is the design and development of certain museum artifacts and development of a narratology around that object with a view to augmenting and enriching the science capital of school students. So that's our objective. And we have specifically, some loading is going on, am I right? Yes.
It just says loading, right? Yes.
Yeah, it's loading, yes.
It takes a time to load. Maybe you can introduce your project a bit further then meanwhile.
Oh, shall I continue then?
Yeah,
or we will...
Yeah, please continue. And we will just get back to the slides. There they are.
Yeah, slides
perfect.
Coming.
Excellent.
Yeah. One step backward, I'll have to go 2 steps backward. Yes, it's loading slowly but steadily.
Thanks, everyone. This is great collaboration.
This is the technological fixes with which we have to live. Yes. Loading is a slow process.
There we are.
Okay, fine. Yes. So we are presenting the design of a narratology based on museums. And the museums with which we interacted with are the Dr. Baudaji Lad Museum at Mumbai, which was formerly known as Victoria Albert's Museum. Then it was the Penn Museum, that is the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. And the third one is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalaya Museum, formerly known as Prince of Wales Museum in Mumbai, and the Nehru Science Center of the National Council of Science Museums of India. These are the four museums with which we interacted with the curators, with the scientists, and with the anthropologists and archaeologists to produce science capital in a specific instance. So basically, I'll be presenting one of the case studies over this. Can I move to the next, please? Yes. So we designed a model. That is, theoretically, we conceptualized what can be done. So first we found out in the school environment, in the school milieu, we have three stakeholders. We have the student, we have the teacher, and we have the parent. That is the totality of the spectrum of the learning horizon. So the student says, I have a learning problem. The teacher says, I have a teaching problem. And the parent, who has to address the homework or any other query, syllabus-based query, says, I have an explaining problem. So the basic problem was consisting of a student origin problem, a teacher origin problem, and a parent problem. So these three problems, and if you see the communication flow of this, the student would have communicated to the teacher, but the teacher wouldn't have communicated to the parent, but the student would have also communicated to the parent. So it is not a cross flow of information, but a directional information flow. Based on this, the problem has to be delineated. That's where the scientist steps in for design of the narratology. So the problem is, technically speaking, in a scientific sense of the term, a problem is a difference between what is and what should be. This is what is obtaining in the classroom. This is how the teacher is reacting. This is how the student is responding. And this is how the parent is responding. So that is the problem of what is. And what should be. This problem should not have been there. So we go to the solution. Every problem will have a solution aspect of it. Next slide, please. Yes. So in search of a solution, the problem for the scientist is to define the problem. So he has gathered the problem, he has recognized the problem, he has evaluated the problem, and he will be designing a solution for this. Now, when I define a scientist here, I am not referring to a PhD holder alone. A scientist who, with about 25 to 30 years of professional career experience in a subject, with a domain knowledge, that is disciplinary knowledge. Then there will be interdisciplinary knowledge with him or her for having worked in the laboratory. And that scientist should be able to develop from interdisciplinary to a transdisciplinary stage to approach the problem. And again, scientists are great team workers. So he will work with a science museum expert, subject matter in a science museum, and also with an art museum expert. So getting the inputs from these two subject experts, he will identify a particular artifact in the museum. So the artifact has been selected with respect to its content and the context and the process by which he will be able to the problem which he has delineated. So that is where the scientist comes into the picture. And the object or the artifact has been identified. Now we come to the solution frozen. That is with respect to content, context, and process, he derives a solution. Next one, please. Yes. So the design is definitely under the restraints. It's an engineering design in the sense that a design is under constraints, the constraints of the syllabus, the constraints of the content. After that, the scientist identifies a solutionist. The scientist is not going to deliver this talk. He looks for a solutionist who will deliver it in such a way that the problem the student is solved, the problem of teaching and guiding by the parents are also solved. Usually, we look for a solutionist who has sound foundations in physics or in basic sciences and an engineering applied or directed research. So the solutionist will be from the scientist, the solutionist will go to be an engineer who will deliver the goods. Next one, please. Can I move to the next? Oh, thank you. This is the case study which I want to do. Here is the student who has garnered the problem. The problems are garnered by the students. And we have the curator, the Pennsylvania Penn Museum anthropologist, Dr. Kevin, and there is a scientist who formulated the problem, identified the solution. That's myself. I've been a nuclear scientist for 40 years, and I engaged an engineer, the lady over there, MS Namrata. She delivered this to the classroom. May I have the next slide, please? The specific problem, we did two experiments with the Penn Museum. One was on one was on biology, that is a story of Darwinian evolution, and the one was on physics and the physics of sound. So I will concentrate my attention now for the next few minutes on the physics of sound. Next slide, please. Now, when we take the subject of sound or acoustics as it is in the classroom sense, we find that there are a number of prevailing mindsets among the students and teachers. We have the basic difficulty of conceptualizing sound either as a wave or a particle. Now, based on the particle mindset, which many students have absorbed at the early stages of this education, they nurture a number of concepts along with that. So we have gathered the list of conceptions and misconceptions and misconceptions which they have, and we have gathered that. And these are the things which will be discussed in a storytelling mode by the solutionist. Next one. Yes, this is the classic difficulty, the classic dichotomy which we have in the acoustic class. Is this a wave or is it a particle? And if the particles which produces the rarefaction and compression in the air, that particle is always confused with the sound as a particle. Now, sound is created by particular motion, but many people think they fail to conceptualize the wave nature of that. It's a wave created by particles. And this is exactly where the entire problem at a fundamental level starts. Next one, please. So we go to, these are the students who are studying science of sound acoustics for the first time at the class 7th standard in the southern state of India in Kerala. So they go for an elaborate course on drumology. They beat drums and produce sounds in a very rhythmic pattern, and they are very familiar with the production of sound, but they are not familiar with the concept of what sound is, how sound travels. So we identified this object in the museum. But corresponding to this, the mirror image of this object, which I got from the Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, was a Lukumbi drum. That Lukumbi drum was explained by the curator of the Penn Museum, and that Lukumbi Museum has taken a cultural route to India, to one part of one state of India, and we have a cultural linkage of that Lukumbi Museum of the African drum with the Indian drum, and the southern state of India, Kerala, had this drum which is called Chenda. This is a group of talented students who learned the art of drum beating for about 4 years. And these people have been taught the fundamentals of acoustics in absolutely very clear terms. That's the experiment which was done. Next slide, please. Now, when we teach acoustics and science, we always refer to the sole physics Nobel laureate India has produced. India had only one Nobel laureate, and his name is Sir C.V. Raman. So we tell the story about how Raman was beating the drums, how Raman was playing the musical instruments, how he differentiated between noise and music, and the pattern of graph we get. So this is called the Raman story. So with a 400 rupee instrument, he developed the Raman effect. He discovered the Raman effect just for a 400 rupees, unthinkable in terms of modern discovery of Nobel class. And his work on musical instruments, sound production will be explained as well. All this in a 45-minute class. Yes, next please. Yes. Then this is the use of museum for another one. We attract the attention of the teachers. In this case, we have asked the principal of a school, the most difficult person to approach, to perform what is known as a reverse osmosis desalination dance. Now, reverse osmosis is a membrane process which is used to separate salt from water. So in a museum, we once did this performance before the pandemic. And after the pandemic, when the pandemic went into, when it was raging in the country, we had uninterrupted service of science service based on water. That was done by the museum because we have created the mindset of the teaching community with the help of a teacher with a folk art, and the reverse osmosis was sold. Once reverse osmosis was sold, it was easy for us to take 2 topics on water later. Next. Yes, these are the 25 programs based on science, based on museum artifacts were done for students of school science over a period of 2 years, including the pandemics. So light, sound, and one of the most fascinating ones we taught was carbon dating. Go to any museum and take an old object, you will find an old wooden object, and from a wooden object you can go for radiocarbon dating, the production of radiocarbon in the air, the cosmic rays interacting with nitrogen and producing carbon-14, and carbon-14 getting oxidized to carbon dioxide being absorbed by the plants into cellulose, and the decay of carbon-14. The entire intricate story is explained to the students with the help of any old cellulose material in the museum. In a classroom, we cannot do that. Do I have another 2 minutes? Yes. Can I proceed further?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
We have some extra 10 minutes buffer in the end, which we can then probably
answer the
make use
questions.
of. And as far as Jose goes, I hope he is patient. But this is really interesting and an amazing thing.
Thank you.
We love to hear about it.
Yes.
Fine with me.
Here in the museum, outside the museum, on the Environment Day, we set up an experimental setup. We want the students, the parents and the students to know that on Environment Day, why the smoke is very difficult problem for in climatology, the role played by smokes, and the difference between smoke, and creating a smoke with an incense burning, and the pattern, the plume it forms, and the certain situation which is derived from that are all explained in a very simple way with a simple device during an Environment Day. So the museum becomes an attention arrestor for scientific concepts. Next one, please. Okay. Now, swords. With the help of the museum, that is the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Samgrahalaya, we made a digital formulation of what a sword is. At one point of time in the warfare, the ultimate weapon of destruction, murder, was the sword until the firepower came in. So the usage of metals and minerals, how the Iron Age came, how civilizations have been graded in terms of metals and elements. So the distribution of iron ore and minerals in my country, how the women folk were engaged in smelting operation at a very primitive level, but yet a sophisticated level, and how one of the Indian saints mentioned the importance of iron ore in our civilization. So, and then we made out the entire story of sharpening the sword, making of the swords, the history of science of story of sword, was narrated and a documentary was made. But the most important thing is the material for this documentary was based on the research by a group of scientists, and a monumental monograph was produced. And the entire text was created out of that monograph, which was done the work of a PhD level thesis. Next one, please. Okay. Then in the pandemic, when we were displaying this science class with the help of the museum, and you can see the students below the poverty line. They share one instrument to view this program. That means we could get people to cluster around a display screen to attend to these classes, a class on metals, a class on water. So the penetration, the impact penetration which our program had with respect to people during the pandemic with the museum object is shown over here. Next one, please. Okay. So that in a nutshell. So the essence of my message is the museum has rich and rare heritages of artifacts. If a scientist can find out that object and the implications of the object, the scientific implications of the object, the content, the context, and the process by which it could be delivered, the museum is a wonderful, remarkable place for a scientist to explain the basic concepts in an extremely fascinating fashion, in a fascinating mode. And we have been doing this experiment for the last 3 years in the STEAM Academy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and thank you for sharing the presentation on such an inconvenient way.
No,
Meanwhile, we found out that this is an actual Zoom problem, so we can't help it and we can't fix it because it seems to have been one of the latest updates that scrambled the presentation mode. But so thank you so much for the collaboration. And I think Tony especially found the picture beautiful with the drums. And I also think that this is a STEAM thing. Drums and music and maths, this should be more connected because the truth is that it is very connected. So this is a really awesome presentation, and I hope that you will have much success. Yes, that one. I think Tony really liked that one. So thank you everyone very much for the patience.
Houghton has a question. Am I right?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, as I said before, Eva said as well, beautiful presentation, valuable in itself. Have you got any further thoughts about taking this stuff into school and indeed into the curriculum?
Yes, we have. In fact, there is a science storytelling methodology which we are using for basic concepts. We want to start the class, a 45-minute class. In the first 5 minutes, there will be a science slam. That is, the teacher will give the history of the subject being taught. For example, if Archimedes' principle is being taught, the displacement of water or that object, it will be narrated with respect to the history of Archimedes and also with respect to a submarine, how it is being applied, why the submarine is meeting the principles of buoyancy. So practical applications, historical application, history and sociology of science, everything in 4 minutes. This is what we call a science slam. So we have made a few number of science slams. For every subject, there will be a science slam. If it is a Bessemer process for the production of iron, we will have that in 4 minutes. The teacher will start the class with a science slam that will give the history and sociology of science in an attention arresting fashion. That's our objective. And we have already made a number of our teachers have joined a guild, and this production is in process.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Musa also has a question. Yeah. Would you like to pose it yourself?
Yes, Professor Musa from Simon. Yes, thank you for helping me with my slides. Yeah. Well, visuality is very important. Thank you. Thank you for enabling me.
Yeah, thank you. Your presentation is very interesting. I think it's a big idea that you're coming up with. But I was thinking of one thing, you know, when it comes to teachers, students, and the parents, the motivation behind their miscommunication and the different reactions sometimes makes it difficult for them to come and collaborate. There is a way that a parent may suggest something or may view something, but the teacher is not open to discussing to the parent, assuming that the parent is reacting that way because he's ignorant, he's not an educated person. And sometimes even parents are not very happy and they are not very ready to talk to teachers, as they assume that whatever teachers would try to convince parents is the way of running away from their responsibilities. So sometimes even students, they may look at the parent, they may find this is the right person because it's the one I'm very close to, or it can be vice versa, depending on the relationship that the student have between the two of them, all right?
Yeah.
So I was now thinking, how did you consider that when you were developing this solution to merge this understanding of the three people?
You have correctly mapped the psychological tension between the teaching community and the parent community and the student. They are not at the same wavelength. They may not speak to each other. And a conversation doesn't take place between a teacher and parent, particularly with respect to the curriculum. That is why we bring in a character called the scientist. The student will talk to the scientist, the teacher will speak, the teacher may not listen to another teacher, but the teacher is willing to speak to a scientist. And the parents are also willing to speak to the scientist. So we have a neutral character who has a free flow of conversation with the three constituencies. That's how we solve this problem, because a direct interaction between them will lead us nowhere. And then there is a textbook writer who also has to be brought. There are other constituencies also in the whole system. But when you put a scientist in the center and a museum, so there are external agencies and who have spent a lot of their time on that. So we have this particular model, and this has been working for the last 50 years. We have a pupil science movement in the country, which is 50 years old, where the retired scientists go into the society and explain these things. And teachers have no objection when a scientist is explaining. So that is why he's an acceptable figure, or he's not an unacceptable entity for the teacher. So that's the receptivity which we are able to create with the help of the neutrality of a scientist.
As long as scientists are neutral, which is not always really easy because we also have our opinions.
Yes, we have very strong opinions. Scientists also have their strong opinions, but since the 8 hours during an occupational life, they keep it very objective and remove subjectivity from their life. They are more tuned to be neutral in, particularly with respect to subject content. They will be very neutral. Yes.
Yes, that's true. But I think we should now really commence with Jose's presentation, because otherwise we will take too much time from your break. And I think you have your contact information in your presentation, and we will share all the presentations that we get. So if there are more questions about this wonderful presentation, we are really happy to redirect them then.
Thank you.
Please,
so much.
Jose, I'm really happy that you took the time and come to us and give the presentation, and I'm especially happy that you were so patient. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
I'm sharing my screen now, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Eva, for the presentation and for guiding this session. My talk is about the importance of teachers' specialization when implementing STEM projects. It's a bit more research analysis. Okay, I will show which is within it is questionable whether the objectives of STEM education are being accomplished or are being achievable so far. There are international projects, like for example, PISA, that claims that the students across many countries don't achieve the minimum required level for of the mathematics and science competencies. And although in the European Union there is a growing number of STEM graduate students, These figures is to be smaller than other countries like USA, Russia, for example, or Canada, according to some of the latest programs that or reports. Concerning teachers and STEM education, in many countries, high school teachers are usually subject specific. They are specialized in one subject. And STEM education, in a way, implies having subject-specific teachers crossing subject boundaries, meaning having teachers who are not specialized in one subject to teach other content, not very much or not very much related to the one that they were trained for. Then we can distinguish between two types of teachers, the one called in-field subject teachers, who are the ones that are qualified in that specific subject, and out-of-field teachers that are the ones who are teaching a subject without previous specialization. For example, in the case of mathematics, if you are in field mathematics teachers, is that you are being qualified in a mathematics degree. So our study was focusing on analyzing how outfield and in-field teachers were addressing high school content when implementing STEM projects through the engineering design process. And we were asking when, something was wrong with my presentation. And our study was focusing on analyzing how they were implementing these STEM projects. So our research question was, does teacher specialization affect the way in which STEM projects are executed through the engineering design process? In this case, was these projects were aiming also to learn mathematics. We have an example of 5 teachers in a qualitative study where they developed 10 projects during more than 2 years, and 2 were teaching mathematics in field. I mean, they were mathematics, they have a mathematics background, and the other 3, there were no specialized in mathematics. They were qualified in, they were teaching technology, and they were engineers. What we found after analyzing these 10 projects that they design and they implement in the classroom with their students is that out-of-field teachers were focusing more in the technology part, in the assembling, in programming, you know, in the functioning of the prototypes that they were constructing. And we found that the teachers that were qualified in mathematics were trying to develop more in depth the mathematical content, apart from algebra and geometry that was often used by the engineers. In this case, the mathematicians were also using statistics, probability, and they were modeling. There was a difference on how they were addressing the content also, not only on the content involved in the project, but also on how they were addressing the content. And out-of-field teachers rarely involved on mathematics reasoning, on conjecturing, or they were also really transforming a problem or a contextual problem into a mathematical problem. This part was more superficial, and mathematics teachers were trying to start from the mathematics and then develop a context around the mathematics. These results leads us to conclude well, basically two main things. We found differences on how in-field and out-field teachers address contests were identified, and out-of-field teachers may not contribute to explicitly develop knowledge on related areas. For in this case, we thought that the technology teachers were not giving all the potential into the mathematics content, mathematics skills in the projects that they were developing. And the implications of our research is, we just two questions seems to be addressed here, is that should we promote teacher training on STEM? Meaning, should we train our teachers as, for example, happened in primary school, where they gain knowledge from different subjects? Or should we promote teachers' cooperation in order to integrate their skills and their knowledge to construct projects together? This is the final conclusion of our study, that it turns into an implication for further research in a new project that we are now leading in under the Erasmus program with the University of Uvascula, the Jonas Klepper University in Austria, the Metropolitan University in Budapest, and the National University of Athens. We tried to answer to these questions. We tried to find some kind of response to this. And we have several objectives for this project, which are to exchange the best STEAM practice among teachers and training, and designing a transcultural professional development framework to train teachers to become STEM professionals. But we are in the way that we don't really know whether we should go to the part where should we integrate, or teachers should integrate the knowledge of different subjects, or teachers should cooperate or collaborate together within their particular specialization.
Have taken us very soon from session 4.
Oh.
Somebody was still presenting. Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Still presenting.
Yeah, maybe Eva will have a say on that.
Oh, sorry. Maybe we should have gone to the rooms.
Oh, sorry, I tried to write on Slack not to stop the sessions, but it was probably too late.
Sorry, but I think you can rejoin the rooms if you want. So if it's
it would be really good.
Yeah. So
to have Jose finish.
So I opened the rooms again.
Thank you.
And then so in then that case we will have a longer break until 11:40, and then whoever wants to go to room 4, then you can go back to room 4.
I'm really, really sorry about that. I tried to warn them and stop them, but it didn't help. Sorry, Jose. Sorry for all the inconvenience.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. I think I was here, right? I talked about the implications, these two questions, right? Do you follow me?
The last slide that I was seeing was the slide about the project.
Yeah. So these two questions lead us to the project, the STEAMteach, where the University of Cantabria has 4 partners: the University of Athens, the Jonas Klepper University of Linz, and Metropolitan University of Budapest, and University of Jyväskylä in Finland. So the main objectives of the project are trying to answer these questions. I mean, is to exchange the best practice among teachers and trainers among these countries, and also just to design a transcultural professional framework to train to train teachers on STEM education. But with these 2 ideas of training teachers on, several subjects to integrate knowledge, or just training teacher on skills related with the implementation and cooperation of collaborations to develop projects together. This is the idea of this project now. We are in that point, and here I have some references for you, if you want to have a look to what we are doing so far. Okay, that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Jose. I'm so sorry about all the inconvenience.
It's fine, don't worry.
And yeah, Catherine says that she is sad that she cannot join Erasmus projects anymore, of course, due to the Brexit. And unfortunately, that is something that we have to deal with. But I think maybe we can involve people by other projects.
Sorry for stopping the room.
It's fine.
I didn't really want to, but many people were not able to come back from the other room, so
it's okay. I'm sure it was on purpose.
I know. And yeah, for Catherine, I think you should be able to join. Just write me, and then we will find a way to get you here, because it's always amazing to work with you. So very nice. But so I'm sure Jose had an amazing presentation.
Yeah, and I have a question. Jose, you previously, this is something that I'm not used to, because usually you have questionnaires with thousands of people, and now you have like 10. This is really new to me. Usually that's something that's strange to me. You said that the teachers that are not from the field do not contribute really from beyond the field that they're teaching, and contribute more from the field that they come from, right?
Yes. No, I mean that if you are, for example, a mathematics teacher, and you are asked to implement a STEM project, you tend to encourage your students in the mathematical content, because it's the natural way. So you tend to promote skills like mathematical reasoning, conjecturing, and this not always happen when you are, for example, a technology teacher or physics or whatever. You tend to encourage your students more into your subject, because you feel more confident, and because you are not aware of other ways of implementing. I mean, it is not like you don't have the knowledge or something. It's you are not used to that. Then you tend to apply what you normally apply, even if you are asked to integrate knowledge. So my question is, should we train teachers to become STEM professionals, or should we continue teaching or training teachers on specific subjects, and teach them or train them to become better in integrating or working or collaborating together to become better professionals on STEM? That's the questions arise here?
Maybe it's in my opinion, it might be something completely different. I have some experience with usability studies, and what they show is if people are under pressure, they completely switch off their brain and they do what they are used to do, whatever this is. So there was an experiment of toilets in a mall, in a shopping mall, and this is an example. I think it was from Holland or something, from the Netherlands, and people that needed to go to the toilet went into the shops asking for toilets, even if there were customer toilets available. And nobody figured out why that was, and they made huge signs to the toilets and whatever. And what they then did is put all the people from the mall into a room and had a presentation about over 2 hours and gave them a lot to drink. So they then really had stress to go to the toilets and to find the bathrooms. And what the people then did was not find signs or think about where a bathroom could be, but they were searching on the floor and on the walls and on the roofs and asking people around. So when people are under stress, they tend to do not logical things. They tend to just do anything that they are used to, just, I don't know. So probably it's space that teachers need and time in the teaching to apply other ideas and STEAM.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, but I think this is a really important question and a really important discussion, and this is a really awesome project.
Use Diego, if I have to contribute.
Sorry?
If I have to contribute on the questions you are asking, eh?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Sure,
please.
you can see even from the chat. I'm just trying to look at the issue from the nature of the current world, how our environment is very dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
They are changing so quickly. So I was asking myself, if we say we train teachers only and that's the solution, do we know what teachers will be facing tomorrow? I don't know. Actually, we don't know. We can train for today, and by the time perhaps we finish training them, when they go back to their classroom, they face different challenges. And again, if we say, let's teach them only to collaborate, we don't know at a certain context how many resourceful people are going to be there to cover all the requirements. You can even think of the TPAC framework. I hope you are aware of it.
Yeah.
Of Mishla, that requires a teacher to be technological, competent, pedagogical, and even content, to integrate all of these in order to use technology, for instance, in the classroom. But you can see even the quicker, the increasing advancement of technology. By the time you are learning in the class, the use of smartphone today, tomorrow another applications are coming. So for me, to that questions, what I would say is just to teach teachers to be creative and very innovative. They should apply reflective practice, if you like, so that they should know what is required and how to cope with the requirements. But keeping in the hands of either telling them go and collaborate or just come when in the class so that we can train you, I'm really worried if this can help us to solve all the problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. I agree with you to some extent, but the problem that we have in some countries, I don't know whether you have this problem in your country, is that, for example, in Spain, and I know in other countries that they are collaborating with us in that project, we have a strict curriculum to follow, and teachers don't have this option of, to be so creative in their lessons, because their students are going to be examined in the future. I mean, in few years, and they, in a way, they have to prepare these students for these examinations that allow them to entrance in the university. So this, then they have to follow some kind of guidance or some, also the curriculum program, and in a way we have to help them to implement what the official documents say. So this, if you are talking about teaching out about teaching out of the curricular, it is fine. We can teach them to be creative, and it is also important and can be parallel. But we also need to follow the objectives and to achieve them in a way. I don't know if you agree with me in this.
Yeah.
I agree with you that this centralized curriculum and the state examination, that makes teacher to be responsible rather than focusing on teaching exactly what learners needs is real challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But the kind of creativity that I was referring to, I was not saying that they should change everything. At least they should find out how to accommodate themselves within. Although I know it's real difficult, because sometimes when you are trying to bring, let's say, a certain technology, you need to redesign the curriculum. And once you redesign the curriculum, you go quite different from the expectation of the people who are setting the exam. In the end, these students, of course, they will be competent, but they will fail the exam. And at the national level, the assessment of your, efficiency is for students to pass the exam. So I really agree with you on your point.
Thank you for your comment.
There's some discussion going on between Tony and Catherine about collaboration too in the comments, but I really suggest that we commence this important conversation in the main room, because I believe it's not only important to us or for us. I think this is a really important topic that we probably should all reflect on. What do you think, Short?
I think you should have a break, because you have five minutes, and then we have 20 minutes afterwards to discuss any topic. So then this could be one of them, the topics that we want to discuss. So I think you should have a break. So if you don't mind, I stopped the breakout rooms now, get a coffee, and then we will start in 5 minutes. And then if it's continued, then it's good. So Jose.
Yeah, just hold your thoughts. I think this is important.
Jose, we want you here. I think you are coming soon.
Yes,
same for Catherine.
I will be there.
Great,
Okay,
thank you.
see you soon.
Bye-bye.